Okay, doing a quick demo of the V-Synth XT running this OB-6 sample. So here is the sound. I'm controlling it with the Chronos here. So it's got a step sequencer and the filter, and if I display the sound, I get this rhythmic loop. So you can do some cool rhythmic things up here. If I take the step sequencer off, you get kind of the slow fade through the sound wave. So what's really happening here? So let's listen to the original sample. This is using, actually I have to remember which one it is, OB-6 groove waveform. So if I go over to sample mode, OB-6 groove, let's preview the raw sample. That's it. I think it's edited. If I go into the editor, you can actually hear it played with a loop. So I cleaned that up, made it so it loops properly, and then it is encoded. It's encoded using ensemble. Now, if I take off Veriphrase, well, actually, sorry, I've got a whole start offset. Let me just go and put this in a blank patch. So here's blank patch doing nothing, switch to PCM, go from my list, pick the OB-6 groove. Here it is without Veriphrase. If I turn Veriphrase on, then I get, we'll tempo sync it as well. So I can get that same thing. I think actually I did need to pitch shift the original one up to be in the right key, but you get the idea of what it's doing. So on this patch that I made, though, it does not sound like that. It sounds quite a bit different. So if I take the step signature off, again, just get to this. How do we get this sound from that rhythmic loop groove happening on the original sample? Well, what we've got here, I'll actually even turn off my two filters so we can hear just sound. We're doing a few things, but we're playing with time essentially. So the start offset, I've actually got it at 10,000. So we're not even starting at the beginning of the sample. And then further, the time offset is set to 0, and I've got the time envelope engaged. And I'm starting right away doing a fairly quick decay of 28. So I've got 0 for attack, 28 for decay, and I'm sustaining at 38, and then release at 54. So it's in an envelope depth of 27. So instead of playing through the sample normally, it's slowing it down and then really holding at a low point of time. If I take that envelope off, then we're just stuck in time at that offset point, which actually creates kind of a neat bell sound anyway. If I put it back to forward, so now this is that original wave, just playing that. But change it to 0 though, as I re-engage that envelope. Now it will move through some of the wave, almost like if I was using the time trip pad. If I raise the sustain, if I brought it all the way down, then it would kind of sit and be very still. So it kind of would lose a lot of the life of the sound. You could add that back in later with an LFO or something in the filter, but I found that if you bring the sustain level of the time envelope up a bit, it will kind of slowly morph through some of the waveforms, but in a way that's so zoomed in on the sound you don't really hear the original sound. And again, if I take the decay, kind of shows me how much of the sample I want to go through. So if I have a much higher decay, it'll take a while to get to that. If I do maybe a media, you'll hear it slow down eventually at that. But with a shorter decay, it kind of gets right into it and then starts almost coming apart at the seams this way. So that's kind of a fun trick I like to do with some of these samples, is just kind of almost explode them into these strange waveforms that the time envelope can do. And then from a filter standpoint, the first filter I've got is the lo-fi filter with a sample rate down of 8. So without that, if I turn that on, and it adds even more artifacting, almost like it's been compressed. And then the second filter I've added is just a time variable filter low pass. The cutoff is not taken down that much. I could take it down much more and do something like that, but I had it at around 94. So it's fairly open, but then used the step modulator with kind of an up and down rhythmic pattern. You can just draw these with your hand, but with that turned on, now it's stepping through that, and I've set the destination for this as the second Cosm filter, so the low pass filter frequency. So it's modifying that with this rhythm pattern, opening and closing. Finally, we do have a little bit of chorus and delay on here as well. If we turn those off, we still have a little bit of release. So on the overall TVA, which is the primary amp ADSR function, as it's called on the V-Synth. Without that, you get the completely dry sound. So anyway, back to the original. That's how we get that. Thanks.